Hey everybody, Austin back again with another Let's Play video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be playing an arcade game through MAME, and this is Captain America in the Avengers. Now, the main reason I'm actually doing this video is that I was up at East Starland earlier tonight, was trying to kill some time while I was waiting to meet up with someone for dinner after work, and they have a Captain America in the Avengers arcade machine. And they have a little button up next to the monitor that you can keep tapping and it'll keep inserting credits for you. So you can basically just play the game for free. And, you know, I had never really played this game much before. I had only played a console version on the Sega Genesis way back in the day. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really impressed with the game back then. Granted, I had never really played the arcade game though. So what happened is I pumped in a bunch of credits and I ended up rolling through the game once. Using a bunch of continues, but trying to get used to the controls and the mechanisms and how the game operates. And after I was said and done, I was kind of like, well, I've got about 40 more minutes to kill. Let me do it again. So I ended up running through the game again using far less continues because I had a much greater grasp on what I needed to be doing. And what I found while I was playing is one of the cool things about this game is that it's very controllable. It's not like a lot of other popular beat-em-ups of the time period where it's just unfair. Pretty much everything in this game is perfectly fair, so if you play really well, you could probably get through this game on one continue, or without continuing, I should say. So, yeah, I got home from work, and after, well, going out for dinner, and I decided to try to find it on the web and see if my MAME runs it, and it does, and it seems like it's perfect, so what we're going to be doing is actually trying to go through this game. Now, I do want to forewarn you, I'm going to be skipping through all the story segments, and this is mainly just to sort of speed this video along. So if you want to see all like the cutscenes in between stages, this is not the video for you. However, you will get to see the ending once we get through to the end. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and insert some credits. 1991 by Data East. And what's cool about this ROM that I'm using is that it seems to be like the two-player cabinet version. So much like the two-player version of TMNT or X-Men or something like that, you can basically hit start and then pick whatever character you want. On the actual four-player cabinet, you can't do that. You basically, if you hit start on player 2, you're stuck with Iron Man. Likewise, if you hit start on player 3, you're stuck with Captain America. Now, I don't know if that's an option on like the dip switch settings or something like that on the actual board, but yeah, this is how this version in MAME is actually working. So, Captain America and the Avengers is a two-button game. It's pretty simplistic, but despite having two buttons, it's actually got a fairly decent moveset per character. By double tapping the direction keys, you can actually dash in left or right. And what's kind of cool about dashing is you can actually kind of move up and down while you're dashing. And I'll kind of demonstrate that as the enemies go away. And basically your second button makes you jump, your left button makes you attack, and if, again, like I said, if you double tap, you can dash, and when you're dashing, you can go up and down, which is pretty cool, very useful. Your jumps are really, really high in this game, and so you can try to use that to get away from enemies if you're cornered or something like that. And one other thing you can do is every character has projectiles, and the projectiles are awesome in this game. They're not, it's not like X-Men where if you use a projectile, you lose life or something like that. X-Men was pretty much a strictly hand-to-hand combat game. I mean, it was a great game, nice graphics, good audio, cool level design, stuff like that. But it was attacking enemies was very risky in that game. In this game, attacking enemies can be made very safe. And just basically do a projectile, at least with Iron Man. I'm pretty sure it's the same with every character in the game. You basically tap both buttons together, and you'll do just pretty much a half a screen projectile attack. Now, what's really cool is that when you jump in the air high enough, you can basically do a downwards projectile attack. It's super useful. And you could play very safe, as I'm doing right now. You can just pretty much just stay in the air and just do your projectiles all day. Of course, that guy with the shield, I can't really hit him with the projectile, which I should know better than that because I beat this game twice just about 2 hours ago. So, you've got regular punching like you do in other beat-em-ups, but I try not to use the regular punches that often. They seem to be a little risky, and so, yeah. I try to just kind of stay back, use my projectiles. That's definitely the safest way to play this game. And as you can see, you can actually pick up objects in the playfield, which is really cool. I like the projectiles, like the rocks and stuff like that. They seem to do the most damage. You've got these objects where you can like drop these explosive barrels and whatnot. They don't seem to be as useful, to be honest with you. The rocks, and like later on you'll get wrenches and things like that. Oh, God, I know this guy's pattern much better, but I'm trying to talk and play at the same time. It's not working. But yeah, the projectiles that you actually throw into the ground, like barrels and things like that, and later on like computer terminals and whatnot, they don't seem to be as effective. And sometimes like they'll cut through the enemy as opposed to like destroying them in one hit, or they'll miss like that. Whereas I don't have that problem with the projectiles that sort of just, you know, go straight. Now, one other thing I wanted to sort of preface with is that I will be using continues, so don't expect this to be a perfect run. Like, I'm about to get a game over already. Part of that is because I'm talking and playing at the same time. I'm trying to explain stuff. And earlier this afternoon, I was having a much easier time when I was playing the game because I was just really focused on it. And now it's just kind of like, yeah. Now, if I just play a little bit smarter, use my projectiles like so, the whole thing will be a little bit easier. Alright, this is a shoot-'em-up section, and this game has quite a few of these throughout the 5 stages. And I think it's pretty cool, actually. At first, I was kind of like, this is kind of goofy, but you can pretty much destroy any projectile on screen with your shots. And you don't really have to worry about enemies coming from behind you, which is nice. Because your guy is huge and he's slow, and so I shouldn't have too much of a problem here in terms of like dying and whatnot. And you guys could probably hear me pounding away. I'm actually using my Hori Xbox 360 arcade stick. It's the VX version of their arcade stick, and it's an okay little stick. Oh, I'm sorry, not really little. It's kind of a big stick now that I think about it. It's decent. It's probably about an $80 stick. Not too bad. And that's definitely the way to play these MAME games. And this one's going to be a little bit tougher. I might die here. Yeah. Hit start. Iron Man again. And again, today was really the first time I had ever played, or really tried to play the arcade version. I had, you know, popped in a credit here and there at Starland in the past, in the last year or so. Played for like half a stage and then gave up. I was just like, yeah, it's okay. But later today I had some time to kill and I was like, I just want to play arcade games for some reason. And so I actually tried learning the game, trying to figure out how it played and whatnot. And here's Sentinel. And I had fun with it, once I learned the moves and so forth. And probably the coolest thing about the game is how controllable it is. I mean, as you can see, it's not really that crazy. Like this part right here, you could literally just like sit in a very specific shot and you'll pretty much dodge his projectiles. And... oh, that was bad. If I pressed the button faster, I would have destroyed him quicker. Why did I know better than that? See, on my best run earlier today, I was just making heavy use of the projectiles and not doing stupid things like that. Like, I know those guys reach out and they grab you, so it's like, why am I running straight into them? It's like, that's completely my fault for getting hit and almost dying as a result, you know? The guys with the projectiles, you want to just sit back and throw your projectiles at them. You don't want to get up close, really. especially when they start jumping and things like that. It's the guys with the shields, they don't really do anything. They just block your attacks. So it's like, you know, just run up to them and just punch them. These little hopping things, they're like sort of ticking time bombs. If they get near you, they'll pretty much blow up. Those flying ships, I like to get up and shoot my laser out. Seems to be the best way around them. Enemies that you knock down to the ground, assuming they don't have the shield, you can pretty much line up your projectile right on top of them as they get up, and it's pretty much a guaranteed hit. So, you know, that's just yet another way this game is very controllable compared to other beat-em-ups of the time period. And it's, you know, I used to be a big fan of beat-em-ups back in the day, as a lot of kids were in the 90s. But, you know, as the years went on, I kind of, I don't want to say grew out of the genre, but I just stopped playing them, and I stopped enjoying them as much too. And my favorite beat-em-ups are the ones that are the most controllable, as in like controlling the flow of the game. And you know, there are some really popular beat-em-ups from back in that time period, like The Simpsons and X-Men. I think it's much harder to control the flow of those games. And when you get to a boss battle in those games, it just feels so much more random as to whether you're going to succeed or not without continuing. In this game, you can pretty much just totally control the boss battle. They have very specific patterns, and you can sit back and use your projectiles. That's how the game was designed, pretty much. And, you know, while it might not be visually impressive compared to, like, X-Men or Simpsons or even the TMNT, the arcade game, or Turtles in Time, what it actually kind of has, you know, in a good way versus those games, is that it's so much more controllable. And if you just play smart, you will pretty much be able to dominate the game, which I really like. Arcade games are usually very brutal and unfair because, well, they're money-making machines. That's what they're there for. And so, you know, they were there to try to get as many quarters out of you as they could. But this game, not really so much. I mean, granted, there might be more enemies if you play in 4-player mode on a 4-player cabinet. I'm not sure because I haven't done that. But, you know, I actually kind of really like this game now as a result. I always thought this game was kind of mediocre, especially graphically speaking. But once I actually started playing the game and kind of learning how everything works, I think it's a pretty cool game. I definitely recommend trying it out if you like control-oriented video games. So here we go. We're on our second shoot 'em up section. Now there's going to be some guys here on the bottom of the screen. They shoot like a three-way spears, sort of, and I like to try to go for them first because they're much harder to dodge. Your character's huge on these shoot 'em up sections. Remember that. So you really want to try to eliminate as much dodging as possible, required dodging as possible. Like there's 2 more of them, 3 more. These sort of eel things, they will explode and do some damage, so try to go for them too, otherwise they sort of home in on you. And you do have to be careful about that. Now there's going to be this squid boss. He's pretty easy. Watch out for his arms, and then watch out for his projectiles, and you can sort of just sit in between them as they fire out. Like so. Bam, just like that. Back to a beat 'em up section. One of the other cool things about this game is the fact that it mixes up the gameplay a little bit. I do like that. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, the shoot 'em up sections, they really aren't exceptional by any means, but it's a nice little diversion. And they're not that difficult. Again, it's very controllable in terms of controlling the flow. So you just stay back, use your projectiles. If there's only 1 or 2 enemies on the screen, you really have no excuse to die. If you get hit by an enemy, it's totally your fault, because you could have just stood back, used your projectiles, played it safe, but you didn't. You know, that sort of thing. See, bam, projectile, bam, projectile, 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 projectile! So many projectiles! You know, you can literally just play like this, and it's kind of nice. Now, there are going to be other sections in the game where there's going to be like 8 or 9 or 10 enemies on you at once. So it's harder to do that. So in those situations, I like to jump around, use my air projectile. Dashing and shoulder slamming through enemies helps a lot if you want to cut through a bunch of enemies. But you want to be careful about that too. If you've got enemies that pretty much shoot out projectiles, or if like those sort of brownish orange enemies that will grab you with this wire or hook or whatever you want to call it. And what's really nice about jumping and doing your projectile is that after you do the projectile, you can still control your jump. So you can basically move down projectile to move back up, which is really cool. Which, you know, I don't think it's kind of hard to do something like that in some other beat 'em ups, but it kind of makes sense in the whole scheme of things here. Like, you're Iron Man, you've got rockets under your feet, so it's like, of course you'd be able to do something like that. It would kind of be dumb if Iron Man couldn't do that. So, but I'm gonna guess that every character in the game can sort of like jump and control their jumps in the same manner. Oh, yes I can. This is a pretty short game. I think it'll take you about 25 to 30 minutes to complete. And we're already on... I think this is stage 4. Yeah, pretty sure this is stage 4. Yeah, this is the level where we fight Skull something. So here are the wrenches, as I was talking about. They're very much like the rocks from the first stage in the game. Watch out for these big guys. They will charge you. They pretty much just move up and down in a zigzag pattern like bumbling idiots. And then when they get close, they'll dash in like that. Yet another example about how this game is very controllable. The enemies have very specific patterns, and you can pretty much play around those patterns. And these green guys up top, I don't know what they're doing. So I will get in close, do that. Projectile, 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 projectile. Done. Just like that. It's probably wise to go for the projectile guys first, now that I think about it, and I wasn't really thinking about that earlier on today. Because they're the most annoying in terms of the enemies. Like the hand-to-hand combat guys, you've got the complete advantage on them, even if there's like a big swarm of them, because they can't shoot. So you can just stay back from a distance, be like, oh, okay. Zap them. You don't really have to worry about much with them. Look at this Juggernaut. He's absolutely pathetic in this game. Oops, I'm not jumping high enough. You have to jump a certain height to be able to do your air projectile. If you press your attack button before you get to a certain height, you'll basically do a sort of jumping hand-to-hand attack, or fist attack. And what's cool about your air jumps, see there's your basic attack, like so. What's cool about your jumps is that you can wait to do your projectile till just before you hit the ground. So you've got so much flexibility with it, which is great. So like you can basically jump and position yourself to attack the enemies with the air projectile. Oh look, the shield guys actually do attack. I think that was the first time I've seen them attack. That's funny. But they're pretty much not a threat either way. See, projectile, projectile, projectile. Some punches for good measure. You have to mash the punch button really fast though, otherwise they will be able to punch you out of your combo. So something to be aware of. Kill the projectile guys first. The blue P icons, those are health, and they give you about 15 health or so, I think. making good progress now. Now that I'm playing smarter, and I'm a little warmed up now. The quotes in this game are so cheesy. Where's the laser? Ask the police. What? Really? We're like pretty much in space, and you're telling us to ask the police. That is okay. Kind of weird. All right. So this guy isn't too bad. Just again, make sure you're controlling your jumps in the air, like so. See, he shot that laser and I would have totally landed on it, but I controlled my jump. Like so. That is probably one of the biggest things to know in this game in terms of... Ooh, see, that was bad. That is definitely one of the biggest things to know in terms of survival in this game, is controlling your jumps after you launch your air projectile. See, again, I could have died right there. But, you know, it took me a little while to get used to firing in the air and then controlling my jumps afterwards.
Avengers.
Alright, this should be, I think, the final stage. I think this is the last shoot 'em up section in the game. Wow, that did a lot of damage. That was 20 damage. Yeah, that's the tough part, because your guy moves so slow, it's just hard to dodge, period. And you get this sort of flying thing. I don't know if it's called Wasp or something like that. I've never really seen the, you know, followed the Avengers series in terms of like the comics or even the movies. So I'm not sure what that character is, but he says something like Wasp. I don't know if it's Wasp or War or something else. If you guys know, clarify below for me. This guy will actually pretty much kill these enemies in one hit, so I can just kind of sit up like this, like so. Pretty useful, but I like to fire at the same time just to be safe. And this is the laser that he was talking about in that previous level. I don't even really have to attack it as far as I'm aware, because you pretty much go back down and do a short beat 'em up section. Just like that. Alright, we're getting close to the end. You know, this game is not very long, which isn't a bad thing. I kind of like a good short game. Oh, this is an interesting part. These guys, for some reason, they sort of go under your main projectiles. It's kind of hard to hit them with your main projectile. So the jumping projectile works better here if you're good at doing that. Kind of like so. Those saw blades, they can be destroyed. Good, some health. I want to use as little amount of continues as I can, so it's always great when they give me some health. I should really go for the projectile guys first. You know, as I mentioned earlier, they're kind of the biggest threat. See, especially when I'm trying to jump and do my projectile attacks, they will pretty much hit me, so... I just threw a screwdriver at him, or a wrench. There we go. Boss fight. Ooh, look, another health pellet. This boss isn't too bad at all, really, especially if you just stay airborne. I mean, just like this. He throws some bombs on the ground just like that, and they'll sort of home in on you a little bit. But your jumping is so good in this game, you know, just stay afloat. You know, stay in the air. When their life bars get really low, I think the damage starts scaling, and so you do far less damage when their life bars right at the end. You have to, even though it looks like they have no life left, you still have to do like 5 or 6 hits in order to actually kill them for good. So now I think this is the last stretch of the game. We basically go up this staircase, fight some enemies, then we fight the Red Skull. And then that's it. I think this is probably the biggest swarm of enemies in one little swoop right here. Yeah, we got pretty much 9 or 10 enemies. So it's good to pretty much just stay airborne if you can. I'm noticing the video sort of chopping up occasionally and like pausing, and I think that might be when Fraps chops the video file up into 4 GB sections. When it goes to a new section, I think that's when the glitch is happening. I don't know if you guys are gonna actually see that in the video footage. I'm not gonna find out until once I'm editing it together in Vegas. So this is the first form of the Red Skull. Oh, he's really easy, but I played stupid, so that was totally my fault. You know, so that's the thing about this game. You'll die, but after you think about it for a second, you're just like, oh, that was totally my fault. Why did I do that? You know, because the game is totally controllable. So this boss isn't too hard. He got a big laser attack. He's got like a rapid machine gun attack. He's not really too dangerous, to be honest with you. And again, you can use your air projectiles and get out of the way. Like, there's his laser projectile. Oh. Just like so. There's his machine gun attack. You can just sit outside of it. It pretty much does nothing. It's really only a big deal, I think, if you're playing like 4 players, and it's harder to sort of keep track of what's going on. And again, the tendency with these beat-em-ups is that the games usually get more difficult when you have more players on screen. You know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was like that. Basically, there's more enemies to attack since you've got, you know, 3 to 4 times the amount of players, depending. Alright, there we go. Mission accomplished. Thank you, Wonder Man. I think I'll just go straight through this glass and it won't shatter or anything. I love old arcade games. So there you have it, guys. Captain America and the Avengers, the arcade game by Data East. Pretty cool game. I definitely have much more respect for it now than I did, well, prior to today. As I've said a bunch of times throughout the video, it's a very controllable game in terms of controlling the flow. If you die in this game, it's completely your fault. It's not like other beat-em-ups, popular beat-em-ups that were out there just to pretty much milk you of all your quarters. This is a very, very controllable game. I think, despite like its kind of average graphics and whatnot, it's a solid game. It's a good player. It plays well. So, yeah. If you guys live near the Chantilly area, you can actually check out East Starland. They have a showroom with a few arcade cabinets. They've got Street Fighter Alpha 2, Captain America and the Avengers, Gauntlet Legends, Sunset Riders, Mortal Kombat 2, a Neo Geo machine with a variety of games in it, and a 4-player X-Men machine. So, you know, if you're in the Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia area, definitely come out, check it out, play some arcade games. Again, the Captain America and the Avengers is on free play. So if you like what you see here, either check it out on MAME, or if you're nearby, come check it out at Starland and play some games. So anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I want to say thanks for watching as usual. I'll be back with some other videos sometime soon. So until then, take care.
Avengers! Captain America! Iron Man! Vision! Hawkeye! No matter how strong the forces of